be a full house today. How's everyone feeling?
Great.
Good.
No, how's
Great.
everyone feeling?
Awesome.
Come on now. If you can't pop a smile,
With our hands.
it's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day to all. I'm sending you nothing but love. And I apologize. I'm colorblind, but I'm trying to coordinate. My wife said the shirt didn't match, but I think that y'all are all awesome. Not just because it's Valentine's Day, but just you're awesome every day that ends in Y. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Day number 3 to the NSA Carolinas second installation of the Week of Speaker Love. Mr. Stan Phelps said, Larry, you can't call it the second annual. That just doesn't match. He said, I'm going to punch you in your throat if you call it the second annual. So I want to make sure I don't piss off Stan. But happy Valentine's Day. And if you're in search for love, we've got you covered with a ton of speaker love. You're in the right place. So I'm Larry Long Jr. For those that don't know, I'm the CEO, Chief Energy Officer of LLJR Enterprises. And as the president-elect of NSA Carolinas, I'm honored, truly privileged, and it's my pleasure to serve as your host and MC. If there's anything that we can do to support you, please let us know. I want to give a shout out to our board of directors, our president, Kevin Schneider, Sarah Glova, our VP of Member Experience, our treasurer and VP of Finance, Terry Quimby, VP of Marketing, I saw him, Peter A. Agio Blasitis. I think I got that right. Close enough. Our at-large board member, John Edwards, our past president, Mike Mooney, and our association administrator, Christine Strack. We thank you, we thank you, we thank you. We also want to give props and a shout out to all of our resident CSPs, certified speaking professionals, and our Hall of Famers, CPAEs. I encourage you to explore all of our upcoming events at nsacarolinas.org. And remember that our programming for the Week of Speaker Love is designed to show NSA Carolinas members, guests, family, and friends some serious speaker love. Love is in the air. We are here to help you twofold. Number 1, build a better speaker business. And number 2, become a better speaker. So without further ado, I am absolutely thrilled for today's program because we're going to show you NSA National love, as well as we've got a program of how to build a successful business as a speaker, coach, author, trainer, and or consultant selling to corporations. It's my absolute honor to welcome Peter Stark, who's been a member of NSA for 35 years. Peter credits much of his success to NSA from what he's learned, as well as the relationships that he's built. He's a consultant, executive advisor, a coach, speaker, author. His consulting firm has worked with so many different clients, the NFL, the Aetna, the list goes on and on. I am honored to say that Peter is among only a few speakers with the dual designation of accredited speaker from Toastmasters International, as well as the CSP, Certified Speaking Professional designation from NSA. He's been published worldwide in over 500 articles. He's written 10 books. We are honored. Let's go ahead. Take yourself off mute. Let's give some love. A warm NSA Carolinas welcome to Mr. Peter Stark. The mic is all yours, Peter. Take it away.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be with you today. Saturday morning, I was with the Las Vegas chapter and did this presentation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk for about 45 minutes, and then the last 15 minutes or so, I want to talk about NSA and the role we're playing in it. In this business, I'm going to be upfront and tell you it is the lowest barrier entrance to business of any business I know. There are no barriers, meaning you can print your business cards this afternoon and say, I am a professional speaker. I am a coach. I'm an author. And there's absolutely zero barriers to entry. Now, somebody will say once in a while, yes, but I have a certification to be a coach. And then I'm going to ask this question: who certifies the certifiers that certified you to be a coach? And once again, even in the coaching world, there are very few barriers to entry. But I will also say this about our business: whether you're a speaker, an author, a consultant, a trainer, a coach, this business has one of the highest barriers to keeping you in it. Meaning it is very difficult in this business to sustain yourself over time. And so the purpose of my presentation today is to tell you what are the 10 keys that I've learned that have helped me sustain this business successfully for going on 35 years now. So I'll do this. If you have questions, you're welcome to put your hand up, Larry, or Caroline, if you can help me watch who has their hand up, and then we can call that question. But here we go. In terms of the key, number one is I need to tell you about my mission. The mission of my company, and it's been from the day one, is to help organizations build cultures where employees love coming to work and their clients love to do business with them. Now, the reason that I feel it's critical that you have a very crystal clear vision on what you do in your business is for two reasons. The first is the most important. You know what you say no to because it doesn't fall under the umbrella of your mission. Now, in my business, especially in the beginning, we want to say yes to everything. Can you give a speech on X? Count me in. I'll figure it out by the time I get on the stage. Can you do consulting? I can do consulting. Can you do coaching? I can do coaching. And pretty much on any topic for anyone. To be successful in this business, knowing what you say no to, I believe is almost as important as to what you say yes to, because no's get you into trouble. They let you work with really difficult people to work with. They put you into a topic where you don't have the level of depth and expertise that you need to have. I'm going to share with you on Friday, I was referred to a client. The client called me, and this was the opening line. Peter, you and I met 20 years ago, and I forgot that you were in this business, but I've got a problem and I need your help. I think you are the right person. Now, that's all I need to hear because I got dollar signs flashing in front of my eyes right now. They've called, they've been referred, and they're already telling me that I am the right person. And then he goes on and he tells me about his organizations in healthcare. He's got 250 employees. It sounds like it's going to be a fit. But then his issue is a DEI issue, equity and inclusion issue. I need you to know, as a 60-plus-year-old white male, I am not officially qualified to be taken on a topic of DEI in any organization, anywhere. Now, I will tell you early on in my career, in my late 20s, early 30s, I did do a DEI topic, and all I learned was this: I am not the right person to lead this topic, and I am not the right person in terms of having the expertise to do this topic. And so I'm going to give you a line, a gracious line that will get you out of anything that you don't think is the right fit. And here's what I said to him. I said, Rick, I don't ever want to talk myself out of business, but on this project, I do not believe I am the right fit. But I am going to go to work on Monday morning, and I'm going to get you the number one person I would recommend to help you on this DEI issue. And I called one of my clients, Rady Children's Hospital, who I work a lot with. I called one of the senior executives. I said, you've worked with a DEI consultant that I think you really loved. Could you give me his name? As long as you do really love him. They said he is absolutely phenomenal in every aspect of DEI and every aspect of culture, and I was able to refer him. But I'm telling you, if I said yes to that project, I could have had that project, but I also am going to know this: it's not under my umbrella, and I'm not the best fit. So the mission then tells you what you do say yes to. And then it'll ask the question, okay, how do we deliver our service, our speech, our training underneath this umbrella? So when I worked with the Academy Group in Las Vegas, there was 9 people in the Academy. And when we went around and asked them specifically what they did or what was their mission, they were all over the board, all of them. And so what I do know, for you to be successful, you have to be crystal clear of what your business is. And if you do it right, I work with organizations to help them build a culture where employees love coming to work and their clients or customers love doing business with them. The next question should be, how do you do that? Okay, that's what you're trying to trigger with a great mission statement. It needs to be one that you got by memory, and it needs to be a sentence at the most, two, but you're trying to trigger this question from your prospect. How do you do that? So here we go on the list, 10 operational keys to your success. Here goes number one. Number one is this: have multiple revenue streams. I was a kid, not 30 years old yet, and I went to what they call now Influence. I went to the industry conference in San Diego, and I heard Nito Quabine give a speech on the stage. And I had guts. At the end of the speech, I walked up to him and I said, I want to ask you a question. And before I could even ask my question, he said, tell me about your business. And I said this: I do leadership training. And he said, sit down on the stage with me. And so I sat down on the end of the stage with him, and he said this: it's been my experience that speakers who only have a speech, or a trainer who only has a training session, has a very difficult time to sustain themselves over any period of time. And if you look at our business, we had 9/11. If you were just a speaker, you were looking for your next lunch money. Then we had the 2008, 2009 financial crisis. Then we had the pandemic. All of those pretty much for a period of time, when you have one thing, a speech or a training session, make it very difficult to sustain yourself. And the way Nito described this, he did put my initials into the circle. And then he said, a wheel and a hub with only one spoke tends not to survive. And so he started asking me questions. He said, I want to ask a question. Could you do an assessment? Now, when people hear the word assessment, all sorts of complex thoughts go through your mind. I don't take on any project without doing an assessment, but I need you to know I'm a really simple person. And so if you ask, what would a simple assessment look like? It would be, what are the strengths of your organization? It would be not wrong or bad. What are the areas that, if were improved, would make your organization even stronger? If you could be me and make a recommendation to your organization, what might that recommendation look like? I'll ask a lot of other questions. Is your vision clear? They say, yes, what is your vision? They say, no, what's missing? I'll ask about communication in the organization, top down on a scale of 1 to 10, or cross-departmental on a scale of 1 to 10. I'll ask about collaboration and teamwork on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm asking all sorts of questions to better understand the organization. Most speakers will talk to what they call the meeting planner or one key executive in the organization. I made that mistake once. I talked to a human resource VP, and I said to the human resource VP, I would really like to talk to other people who are going to be participants in the training. She said, I know what they need, and I don't want to waste their time with your questions. Now, today, I would say, you know what? I don't ever want to talk myself out of business, but I'm not going to be the best fit for this project. Back in the day, when I would do anything to get a gig, I listened to her. And I was doing the training, and I don't know if you could visualize this, but up at the first break, 2 people walked up to me and said, who told you we need this topic? Was it HR? Because they don't know. And I thought, well, that'll give you confidence the rest of your speech. That'll just build you up in terms of delivering this with even more punch now for what they don't need. So I just encourage you to do an assessment before you do any project, and you can talk to 10 people. You can talk to 12 people. Now, I also am going to tell you this. If you said, you know what, I'm not sure exactly what that assessment looks like, I'll share my questions with you. Okay, I can help. Now, I also want to say this. My firm also does a lot of employee engagement surveys and leadership 360s. Those are more complex, and those are all done with software over the web with multiple participants. But I also need you to know, I did one of those early in my career, and I said, I don't like this level of detail and complexity. And so Dusty on my team, who's been with me 25 years, she coordinates all of those assessments and then just gives me the data output of which then I can make recommendations. Number 3, leadership training and negotiation. Now, in NSA, they tell you you need to have one topic, one area of expertise, and you need to go deep. I violated every piece of that piece of advice. Now, I'm also going to tell you this. If you try to implement everything that you learn at NSA, you will go broke. Okay. At every conference, I try to walk away. What's one idea that I can implement into my business that's going to drive revenue and drive outcomes? So I will tell you this, I'm an expert in leadership, but I also will tell you this. I wrote a book in 2003 that was published by Random House, Broadway Books, on negotiation called The Only Negotiating Guide You'll Ever Need, 101 Tactics for Success. That book, I've written 10, that book is the only one that really sold. It sold 250,000 copies, and Random House came back to me in 2016 and says, we want to update this because you don't mention anything about electronic negotiations. Well, in 2002, that was not an issue. So we updated the book in 2016 and it still sells. It's one of the few that I'll still get a royalty check from them in terms of reimbursing me. But I also tell you today, 90% of what I'm focused on is the leadership aspect and the cultural aspect, not the negotiation aspect. It's just where my love was more was on the leadership side. Next one, executive coaching. There's two things I want to say about executive coaching. I wish that I had done this earlier in my career, because it is where you can provide the most value to a client and it takes the least labor on your part. And so here's what's neat. Now I've done the assessment and I found out in the assessment, the senior executive team does not work well as a team. I want you to know what I'm striving for on every speech or every training session or every project. What is the next logical step? Okay, this is critical to your success, that you know that going into what I'm doing for this client. Now, I've got to excel. I've got to knock the speech out of the park. I've got to knock the training session out of the park. But the assessment is what gave me the insight to say, it sounds to me like the next logical step is. And I'll tell you, I stole that line from Lois Kramer. So you ask, what is the value of being a part of NSA? It's the people you get to meet and the people you learn from that will drive significant growth to you personally and to you professionally. Now, I'll also tell you this, about probably 12 years ago, I shifted and said this, I'm not an executive coach. I'm not even a good executive coach. Executive coaches ask questions like, well, what do you think you should do? And what have you tried in the past? And how do you see this playing out? Which are all good questions. I coach somewhere between 50 and 65 executives a month, and not one of them is calling me because they have the answer. They're calling me with this line, Peter, I want to run something by you. And I'll share with you an example. Last week, a CEO called me and said, you know what, I want to share something with you, is that we're thinking about going into a competitive market. So they're in healthcare in the clinic business. We're thinking about going into a competitive market. But here's what my concern is. If we do that, I believe our number one competitor is going to come into our market. And I just wanted to get your feedback and thoughts on that. I said, well, I'm actually going to tell you, I have a different thought. I want to ask this. Have you run this by the executive board yet, to tell them that you are out right now researching buildings in a competitor's market? She said, no, I'm not. I said, I'm going to tell you, before anything you do further, you have to go to your board chair and you have to go to their executive board and you have to ask them, are you comfortable with this level of conflict? Because they are going to unleash competition into your area. She said, I hadn't done that. And so the next day she called me and she said, I ran it by my board chair, and she said, you were right. She said, they don't want me even to approach as a topic. And I said to her, you know, you got like 3 of those as a CEO that you can surprise your board negatively before they lose confidence and trust in you. So the difference for me, an executive advisor is more likely to provide advice, and sometimes strong advice. A coach is more likely to ask questions. Moving on to consulting, work on a lot of organizational assessments. We're trying to improve cross-departmental team building. If I said, what's a typical one? I work with executive teams that do not get along well with each other. They're individually experts in their own area, but sometimes I say this, they hate each other in terms of working with each other. And I excel in those types of projects. Moving on, another one, books. I've written 10 9 have sold maybe 2,500 to 10,000 copies. One of them knocked it out of the park. Employee opinion surveys, we do a lot of those, engagement surveys. And then last but not least, leadership developments and assessments. I'll throw one more out there. It's not on my list. I don't do it, but podcast in today's world would be one that many people are doing today that may be a revenue stream for them. So my first piece of advice, don't be a one-trick pony. Have a second next logical step that you can support the client with, because once you have a client, it's so much easier to do more work with the same client than go and hustle in terms of marketing to pick up another one. Here goes number 2, and this is a quickie but a fun one. I want you to focus on IC, not IP. So our business is big on this. Oh, it's my intellectual property. And I'm so proud of my intellectual property. I'm going to guard it with my life. I want you to know I've never focused on IP. I've never seen a need to guard my IP. If you wanted a copy of my assessment, I'll give it to you. If you wanted a copy of my proposal, I'll give it to you. It's not anything that I need to protect, because there is so much business in this world. None of us could take all of somebody else's business. IC is this, intellectual capital. And there's a big difference, because intellectual capital answers this question: who's paying for this? People don't pay for anybody's IP. They might if it's really good IP, but that really good IP is out there far and few between. But they will pay for intellectual capital, something that will return on their investment. Now, I have to show you my favorite book. This is my book closet right here. And this is intellectual property right here sitting there. Every one of those boxes is full of intellectual property. I'm very proud of this intellectual property. The problem is nobody's paying for the intellectual property. I do got to tell you a fun thing. I've been in my building now, I think, for 25 years. And we had somebody come and work with us last week, and he actually took about 10 of these boxes to the dumpster, because the day I retire, I'm not carrying these things to the dumpster. They're going to go before my time. But that is intellectual property. Intellectual capital leads to 2 different questions. Here goes question number 1. What can I create that will be highly valued by clients and generate a significant return on profits? That drives everything I do. So I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm working on a little new IC, and that is I'm working on doing an executive presence assessment that we can send out to executives that others will answer on their behalf, in terms of how would you rate their executive presence or their executive clout. And I believe that it does have value. And I think that when one client does it, they're going to say to another client or another person on their team, we ought to think about doing this as an overall team. I think this has value. And then the second question is my favorite one: who's paying for this? So today I need you to know I have 1.5 employees. I have Marilyn, my executive assistant, has been with me 24 years, and Dusty, who runs all of the assessment divisions and is a senior consultant working with me. She's been with me 25 years. I'm very proud of it. I've had 4 employees over my career that have been with me over 20 years, but today it's 1.5. One of the consultants years ago, who'd been with me 20 years, used to come up with ideas to write a book. And I'm a pretty bottom line, results oriented person. And sometimes she would come in and says, I want to write this book and put in the time and take some administrative time to do this book. And I'm thinking this thought, who's paying for this? Okay, this is a fluffy book. This is a nice book. This is a feel-good book, but I don't know any of our clients who are going to say, give us 100 copies of that fluff, because that's really good stuff. It's just not who our client base is. And I say, go back and put a proposal together, me. And I really want it as a marketing proposal. Who's paying for this? Well, it was always good, because like 4 or 5 days later, she came back and she said, I got down to the part who's paying for this. And I don't think anybody's going to pay for this. I said, good, let's put our efforts somewhere else. But the IP question transferred to IC questions answers these questions. Number 3, I want you to create great proposals. And when I say great proposals, I'm talking about this. I want you to spend time to create a winning template. So sometimes on the first proposals that I created, I may have spent 4 or 5 hours on them. Okay. But after I've created a winning template and it won me business, I want to use that template again. So what took me 4 or 5 hours is next time maybe going to take me 15 or 20 minutes to be operational efficiently. Number 2, and I learned this the hard way, I need you to categorize your proposals by topic, not by client. Because as you get more and more clients, it's hard to go, did I do that with them? Did I do relationship strategies with that client? And I go back into the client's file and then I can't find the proposal I'm looking for. So putting them by topic just gives you, I have 10 proposals on this topic. Which one to which client is closest to what the new client is asking for? Prior to proposing, meet with the CEO or the economic buyer. Now, this is critical to your success. I want to tell you the extreme opposite of this. You send your video into a committee who's going to select our speaker or trainer. It is the kiss of death in this business. And you say, why? The economic buyer almost always is not involved in that discussion. The person who wants to see the benefit come out of it's not involved. The person who wants to look good on the committee is going to be the driver of this decision. And so if somebody said to me, I asked the question, who's responsible for this budget on this project? If somebody is not going to let me meet with the economic buyer, I'm not the right fit for this project. And you ask why, I'm going to be proposing for the sake of proposing, and I'm not into wasting my time in that manner. What's so fascinating is when I've had a 15 or 30-minute meeting with the CEO and I said, what would success look like to you after my presentation? I go weave in the outcomes and the value they're going to receive. And most times I can end up with the job. And when I finally do ask the person, the committee member, the HR person, how many people asked to meet with the CEO, and they tell me you're the only one. I know this is a big key to your success, is having the guts and the confidence to meet the economic buyer. Moving on, gain conceptual agreement. So I'm going to make up money right now, and it's called MSU, make stuff up. I'll say to the client, to do this work with your team and to build teamwork. And I also think there's possibility we're going to have to clarify your vision for this team and then do a relationship strategies program to do the assessment work, to meet with each person, to give each person their individual feedback. We're probably looking between 40 and 55,000. I just want to ask you before we move forward, does that even sound like it's in your budget? Okay, that's what conceptual agreement is about. Now, in the speaking world, I would say this, for me to go ahead and customize a keynote speech for you, we'd probably be looking I'm making stuff up, in the bracket of between 10 and 15,000. I just want to ask, is that in your budget? And that's when they go, no, actually, we have $500. Okay, you just saved yourself like 2 hours of proposal work. Find out, because when they say we just have $500, I just say, oh, I don't ever want to talk myself out of work, but I don't think I'm the best fit for this project. I have a friend who's just got into the speaking business, and I'm telling you, they would love a job for $500. That'll give them excitement, enthusiasm to think about. And number 4, do an assessment. So you've heard a little bit about me talking about that. Why do I do them? You connect with multiple people. You start building people that are on your team that want you to be successful. And because they've given you feedback and you've been able to incorporate that feedback, you got a great shot at having multiple people cheering for you to help you make you successful. Number 2, connect with the CEO or economic buyer. We talked about that. And then I've also said this, propose the assessment separately from the speech or training. So the assessment would be phase 1. Okay, so I'm going to make up stuff. So let's say this is your first assessment you've ever done. I'm going to make it up. Charge another $3,850 on top of your speech or training. I'm making it up. And you say, why? They say, well, you know what? Can't you just talk to me to get the information without talking to the people? It really raises the chances I might commit malpractice. Okay, that's the words I use. Without talking to your people, it raises the chances that I'm going to commit malpractice. With the assessment, I'm going to promise you this, I'm going to make you look better, and I'll make myself look better, and team members are going to say, this was really helpful. And that's what we want. So separate it out. I'll be honest, in the very first part of my career, I did the assessment for free. And then I started recognizing these assessments have value to the client and to me, because the assessment's going to give you the next logical step of how we're going to work deeper with the client. Write the right prescription is the goal of the assessment, not malpractice. Deliver more value and lay the groundwork for the next logical step. So I've talked a lot about that. is what the goals of the assessment, and you can do it as simple as this. What are the strengths of your organization, or what are the strengths of your leadership team? What are the areas, not wrong or bad, but if your leadership didn't improve or your company didn't improve, would make you even stronger. So it's a simple, basic assessment, but it'll give you more work. Number 5, once you have a client, I want you to go deep. It's easier to work with a client you have that loves you than to pick up the phone and say, I've got this really cool speech or training session. Why go deep? I hate marketing. Okay. I early on did calls and tried to get a hold of people. And then I did buy some mail lists and sent out mail lists to people. But I don't know about you in this mail list world today, but I set a goal, and that is to email 10 people a day to tell them to get me off their list, or I block them. Okay. Because once in a while I'll say, take me off your list. And then they say, well, you don't know that I specialize with small businesses like yours. You're blocked. You're done. And so it's very difficult to do it that way. If you have a hot lead, much different, but I don't like marketing. And number 2, I do not like to lose. I hate competition. So somebody will call me and say, you know what, we're looking for a consultant, we're looking for a speaker. And we used the speaker last year. He worked, or she worked really good. And we're thinking about using them again this year, but we want to just get a couple competitive bids. So you really liked the speaker last year. We loved our speaker last year. I got to ask a question. Why don't you use the speaker you used last year that everybody loved? I don't want to talk myself out of business, but it seems like that'd be the right way to go. And then I did that about 2 weeks ago, and somebody said, because our CEO has worked with you in the past and he or she wants you. Well, that's very different. Let me go ahead and customize a proposal. We can make that one work. Be efficient, and then become the go-to resource. I really have worked hard in my career to do the type of work that the next time people have a similar type of problem or issue, they say, get Peter. That's what my goal is. Somebody says, get Peter. Yeah, because those are just a question of how do we work with Peter, not if we're going to work with Peter. Here goes number 6, project revenues out 90 to 120 days. And so I've done this my whole career, and there's a reason for doing this. In the world of speaking, consulting, coaching, there's a whole history of I'm really busy, and then the next month, I got nothing. Okay. And so you can't solve that I got nothing when you've just realized you've got nothing. But 90 to 120 days out, you can solve the I got nothing problem. And so I've looked, and you say, well, how do you do that? I know you can do it on eSpeakers, but I'm actually more simple than that. I just do it on Excel. Okay. Have all the months of the year posted. About November, I'll start working on the next year, but I'm projecting out 90 to 120 days. Now, I got to give you the secret of this. When I look out 90 days to 120 days and I don't have my goal, okay, I have an email that I send out to clients I've worked with, and it's called checking in. And so if you don't use Quick Parts in Microsoft, you should be using Quick Parts in Microsoft, because I'm going to tell you word for word what the email says. It says, Dear Marie, I was thinking about you today. I wanted to check in and see how you and the team were doing. When you get a chance, give me a quick update. And if it's easier, Marilyn will connect and we can set up a call to talk. I can send out 10 of those in under 1 minute. And you say, how? Because once you have the body written, you go and highlight it, and then you hit insert, and then you go over to your ribbon and you hit Quick Parts. And Quick Parts opens up and it'll ask you want an existing one or you want a new one. So I'll say I want a new one. We're going to call it checking in. And then you just hit the button and Quick Parts saves this. So the body of that email, I just have to put their name in, and I send 10. And so in my world, Marilyn follows up with all 10 and says, just wanted to check in. Did you want to send a time to talk with Peter? If I send 10 of those, 2 of them are going to turn into more work. Okay, pretty consistently, 2 of them. But your opening line is real specific. I was thinking about you today, and it works. And so I'm looking out 60 to 90 to 120 days. Helps determine where you spend your time. You have to be in the marketing business in terms of looking up and saying, when do I need to pump the water back up to the top of the pump? And that visual of 90 to 120 days helps me do that. If you're a speaker, it could be longer than that. Get you out of the unemployed speaker cycle of death. And boy, there's a lot of people in our industry that have been killed by being really busy 1 year and the next year, not good. Now, number 7 on my list, give exceptional value and service. And you can be good in this business, but if you don't tailor how good you are to creating value, and people can see the value, feel the value in the service you buy, be incredibly responsive. One of the lines that I teach leaders is this: don't ever be the person that holds up somebody else's work. Okay. It just magnifies the inability for you to lead by holding up someone else's work. And so in this case, I am very responsive. And usually what I look in my emails is who is asking something of me or who needs something from me. And it may be Dusty or Marilyn on my team. It could be one of my clients, but I'm really good about being responsive to people that I work with. Number 2, under promise, over deliver makes so much sense. And I've worked really hard to do that in my career so that people feel that the value is there. Number 8, delegate anything that's not mission critical that you do. So if it comes to travel, Marilyn has managed my personal and professional life for going on 24 years now. She handles all of travel. You say, how do you coach 60 people a month and not have that be overwhelming? It's so simple. All of my relationships with the people I coach are set up on a retainer. And here's what the retainer looks like. Marilyn's going to reach out to you once a month and set up a 30-minute meeting. It can be Zoom or phone call, your choice. So now we say 60 people, 30. So we're talking 30 hours a month is what we're talking total. Now, all of my clients, I say this: you have unlimited access to me. So if I have 60 clients, how many would you guess contact me multiple times during the month? Maybe 1, at the most 2. And when they call, it's usually something that's critical. I need to run something by you. But if it's not mission critical, and for me, I'm a creator, if I'm not creating something or adding value to a client, I want to be able to delegate that and delegate it to people that are on my team and be effective at that. In terms of delegating, hire great people, technically strong, easy to work with. And then I want to add you trust, because I've worked with some people, even in the $1 million speaker group, who said this: they would never give their credit card number to one of their employees. I want you to know, when I had 10 employees back in 2012, every one of them had my credit card numbers. And you say, why? Because they could do flights, they could order things for me, but they had those numbers. I trust my people. This one speaker said, you are nuts. I would never give a credit card number to an employee. He's gone through like 10 executive assistants since I've known him. I mean, it's like every other week a new one's coming along, because you send out this emails, I don't trust you. And then they think, I don't trust you. And it just not a good cycle. I trust people. If somebody gave me a reason not to trust them, I'm going to coach them. I'm going to counsel them. And then if that doesn't work, I'm going to share them with another competitor. Create a tight position description, knowing exactly what they do, and play to your strengths. My strengths is I'm a creator, and my strength, if I'm in front of a client, I'm going to promise you, I'm going to develop the next logical step. If you took me to one of your clients, I'll promise you, I'll help you develop the next logical step. That's where I drive. Number 9, organize your life and day right to get the most important things done. I have a things to do list. It's pretty simple, but I hold it up and you can see down here in the bottom, maybe you can't see that there's like 7 things, 8 things on that list of things to do. I always get the 3 most important done, and something carries over to the next day. What are the 3 most critical things I need to get done today? Recognize there's a difference between doing your job and critical accomplishment. Critical accomplishment for me would be getting a proposal out in a timely manner, would be critical accomplishment. And last but not least, here's my fun one. I encourage you to buy tickets. And what I mean by buying tickets is so many of us get so busy with clients that we don't take time for a vacation or for family. But here's what I do know. When I buy tickets and I make reservations, I always go. And so I just encourage you to do it up front. I can tell you that I'm going to be going to Sicily, Italy in October this year for about 2 weeks. You say, why? Well, how do you know that so confident? Because I got tickets and I got reservations. Last year, I did a bike ride with my wife, Kathleen, along the Camino de Santiago in Spain. I had tickets, I had reservations, and I had an e-bike. You do not want to do that without an e-bike. That helps a whole bunch. And so number 10, be grateful and celebrate is my last one for you. I celebrate family, celebrate staff, I celebrate clients, celebrate friends, and I celebrate NSA. So I just wanted to pause for a moment and ask, in terms of the content that I presented, in terms of my 10 tips, if anybody has a question for me, I'll do whatever I can to answer it. Sometimes I can't answer it. So anybody have an idea or a question you want to ask? Yeah, go for it, Karen.
So, thank you so much. That was really great. Really good information. What do you do if they won't? Most of the time I am talking to the buyer, but sometimes what do you do if they won't let you talk to the buyer? Do you say, well, I'm not going to produce a proposal, or how do you get around not?
Okay, so Karen, I want to ask a question. If you did 10 of them where they said, I'm not going to let you talk to the economic buyer, out of those 10, how many do you end up getting the job?
Very few.
Okay, so that's my point. I want you to have the guts to say that not being able to talk to whose budget is they're responsible for, I'm not going to be the right fit. I do believe that if I did talk to that person, I could craft an even tighter proposal. I could do even better work. And I actually think it would help not only me look better, I think it would help you look better in the process. And then sometimes I'll ask I've got another good question. Tell me why you would not want me to talk to the person who's going to be responsible for the outcome of this and the budget for this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very difficult question for them. Oh, he's busy. She's busy.
Yeah.
I want to ask another question. Do you believe this project is important to him or her? I want to ask another question. Would you be comfortable if I emailed him or her, said that I'm contemplating putting a proposal together for this project, but I wanted to talk to them to see if I was even the right fit? Okay. I'm not going to send them an email if the person says, I don't want you to send them an email. I mean, there's all sorts of red flags that are going up on this one, Karen, that make me question it. But when you tell me I send out 10 and I get very few, which may be one, I'm saying 90% of the time you're wasting your time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it takes guts, but I'm going to say this: the minute you say, without talking to that person, I needed to tell you that there's a real possibility of malpracticing on this project, and I don't want to do that to you, so I don't think I'm the right fit. That'll give them something to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So good.
Thank you.
Anybody else? That was a great question, by the way. Anybody else have one?
Man, thank you, Peter, for all of this. This is a complete masterclass. My question is very simple. Do you have copies of your assessments that you use? Would you be willing to share?
What I will share with you is I'll share with you the questions. Okay. Because the assessment is going to have specific feedback about a client or specific about an industry, and I don't want to break anybody's confidentiality.
Fair enough. Thank you.
So, but email me. But can I say one more thing? If you're going to email me and you want a copy, you got to tell me what type of assessment do you want. And you say, well, what does that mean? Is it regarding team building? Is it regarding organizational assessment? Is it regarding cross-departmental team building? Is it regarding the level of service? Is it regarding poor leadership? I mean, I need to know what type of assessment you're thinking about to get me in the right ballpark, because I'm not given like 40 sets of questions.
Fair enough. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Jane had a question, and then Lexi next.
Okay, go for it.
I just wanted to say thank you, Peter. That's just incredible. And I wish somebody had told me this when I was in the beginnings of shaping a business, because when you get single-minded on what you're can do really well, it will help you with so much. I mean, there's nothing worse than standing up in front of a crowd thinking, I don't belong here. I don't care how much money they're paying me. This is crazy. And I'm stressed, and I've been there. And you know what else? They know you are. And so I just want to thank Peter for being really intentional about sharing that, because that is gospel right there. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Jane.
Lexi had a question as well. Lexi, do you want to come off mute and ask?
Yes. So the first question is, with your 60 clients, you kind of rattled off a formula in terms of are you doing them monthly or bi-monthly, and you're putting them on retainer?
Yeah, I'm doing it once a month, and once a month for 30 minutes, and they have unlimited access to me. 2, 1, 3 sometimes will take me up and during the month say, I've got a concern and I want to talk to you.
Yeah,
So-
okay, perfect, thank you. And then the second question is in regards to that check-in email. And if I have some leads and I'm realizing that I'm sending out that check-in email more than 3 times, we'll say, and there's no response, or it's say, hey, maybe later, check in later. How many times are you sending that email in? Is there a certain threshold where you say, you know what, this person's no longer someone that I want to continue to work with?
Right. So I only send it once, and then Marilyn will send them an email saying, I just wanted to check in. Did you want to set up a time with Peter? And so that's where I sent out 10. I got pretty much no response from 8 of them. 2 of them want to meet with me. They got something in mind. So that's the percentage. I don't follow. I'm the worst at following up. I don't follow up proposals. I'm terrible. Don't take that lesson from me. But I've never found a good line. I just wanted to check in to see if you had a chance to look at the proposal yet. I don't do that. I tell people up front when I send it to them, please review, and if you feel there's a fit, let's discuss.
Okay,
So I put it into their ballpark. And most of the time, I'm just too busy to be thinking, oh, I've got to, follow this up. Sometimes Marilyn will email me and say, hey, are you going to follow up this proposal? Well, yeah, I probably should. I'll do that. But so I also, to the last person to ask me a question, I wanted to give you one more thing. In terms of when I do coaching, Marilyn puts a template together for me. It's very complex. It asks these 3 questions. What's going well or right? And so I always start out by saying, hey, you know what? First of all, how's your family? Good. Family's doing good. In the world of leadership, tell me what's going well or right this month. What's working for you? What are you feeling really good about? And I just take notes, like 4 bullets of what's going well or right. And then I'll say this. Let's go to another question number 2. What are the challenges or opportunities that if you did improve or enhance, would build an even stronger team, build you as an even stronger leader. And my favorite one is would bring you more joy in your life if we could improve this. And then my last question is not a question, but it's a statement. What are the possible actions? And so I will say this, with this particular employee who's pushing back on you, they do not see this issue as a problem. And so what I'm going to give you is the exact words you're going to say. You're going to tell this employee, John, I need someone in your position who does X. You either can't or won't do X. And I want to ask, if I need someone in your position who does that and you don't, do you see that as a problem? And I'll write that question out for them. Actually, I'll tell you it's in quick parts. So I just go back and not a problem, click that one on and drop it into the bullet so I can be very efficient. But that's where I'll have that. And then I'll send it to them. There are at least 30 clients that I don't send notes to. And you ask why things are going well, relatively well or right. Now, some of the clients I've coached, I've had for 7 to 10 years. And you're going to go, you've talked to people for monthly for 7 to 10 years. Yes, I have. Aetna CBS would be one of them that for years. Electronic Arts would be another one for years. Qualcomm for years. And here's the most amazing thing. I don't have a contract. None. My contract looks like this. If I'm not adding value, just tell Marilyn you want to pass. That's the contract. And if I don't meet with you, I don't bill you. And so it works out really well. But where I'm the best is I'm working with a leader and they're having struggles with one of the direct reports. Said, you know what? I want to ask, would the next logical step be for me to work with that direct report? Because I think if I worked with them, I could bring a lot more joy to your life. And they go, sign them up, get them on the program, have Marilyn contact them. And so like, well, Aetna CBS, there may be 10, 12 to 15 sometimes people from one organization. And yes, what's the benefit? I really learn about the organization and help people to customize. So those are the 3 things. What's going well or right? Just going to give you a structure. Where's the opportunities or challenges? What's the recommended actions? So I hope that helps. I'm simple.
Peter, this has been amazing. I'm curious, what would you recommend to someone that's emerging speaker, intermediate speaker, member of the chapter, whether it's NSA Carolinas or their chapter? What can they expect in joining NSA National?
Yeah, so I want to tell you my story about NSA is that I joined 35 years ago, and for the first 10 years, I never went. I was just a member, and I felt they gave me a magazine or they gave me a CD, and I listened to it, and I got ideas. And then my kids became of age. I have 3 kids who came of age to go to youth leadership. And so then I went for one reason, to take my kids to youth leadership. My 3 kids today I can just look at them and see what they've learned in youth leadership and who they are as a person and who they are as a leader. And sometimes I didn't go to the sessions. And the only thing I can tell you, by not being involved, not going to the sessions, I was a dumbass. And so probably about 15 years ago, I started going to the sessions and I started meeting people. And so NSA today has this digital vault in it. The content in there is priceless. If you want to go and say, I want to be a keynote speaker, you can go watch keynote speakers deliver their craft. And they not only deliver it, there'll be another session where they told you how they put the components together to deliver it. And so these speakers are making over $20,000 a year. And we're saying, okay, for $950 a year, you can be a member. I'm telling you, in that digital vault, there is a gold mine. I'm going to give you one for me. I had a client who says, we want to do a licensing agreement. I thought, I don't want to license my IP. I can't license my IP. It's so valuable. They wanted to license 10 modules of my leadership training and do a train the trainer. I thought, oh, that's not my model. And then I started to think, you know what would that be worth for them to have a 3-year licensing agreement? I went in there and Russ Riddle, he was on the board with me for several years at NSA. He has template contracts in there. I was able to take one of those template contracts and I'm telling you the deal was over 6 figures, okay? One idea from Russ that I was willing to throw out the window because I thought it's not me. And I looked at this template, I go, I see no downside in doing this for a 3-year licensing agreement. I don't care what NSA charges. It was priceless in terms of that. I'm also going to tell you, I've written 10 books. One of them I wrote with Dr. Mary Kelly, who is like a retired commander in the Navy. I'm going to tell you the power of this. So my son, who's 34 years old, is on the aircraft carrier Carl Vinson. And one morning he sends me an email and says, Dad, I wanted to show you an email from our captain to tell you what type of guy I'm working for. And so I looked at this thing, that's exactly what my son would do, is send some confidential email that the captain of the Carl Vinson has sent out to the sailors. And my son is breaking every rule that you could possibly read. So I didn't open the email. I said, I'm not going to take a risk on this. Somebody's going to jail on this one. It's not going to be me. And so later that day, I talked to Mary and she said, Peter, it's not classified. You can go ahead and open it. I opened it. And it was this 5-paragraph email. The first one talked about the success of the mission that they had been on and all the sorties and strikes and all of that. The second 4 paragraphs were all about leadership, taking care of each other on the trip back home to San Diego. And so I shared it with Mary and she said, you know, I know why they've done that is they're trying to present, they had a suicide. And so I thought, I don't know. I actually emailed Bear and said, you know, there's been a suicide board. No, Dad, nobody's been arrested on shore in a foreign country and we've had no suicides. And so I talked to Mary. I said, you know, I would really like to do something with that email. So Mary and I contacted this captain thinking that we're going to get shut down. You know, it's got to be cleared. It's got to be classified. And he said, not only you can use this email in your book, here's 6 others that you could use. I would have not gotten that clearance without Mary. And the second thing is I would have never known her if it wasn't for NSA. And so NSA is a valuable, valuable resource, but the people that you connect with is priceless. So one of the Academy members in Las Vegas was somebody who's trying to build expertise in marketing. I said, you got to know Bruce Turkle because he, out of all the people I know, is the brand expert when it comes to branding. She emailed me on Monday. On Monday, I sent an email to Bruce, connected her, and they're going to be talking and working together. I'm saying this, the relationships you form is priceless. And so NSA local chapter is good, but if I had to do it over again, I would have gotten involved much sooner and continue to build relationships even stronger. So today I'm on the board. I'm an appointee both from Mike Saber for 2 years, and I am also an appointee for Meredith for 2 years. And yes, why is I an appointee? Because I don't run into things where I might lose. And being elected to the board, there's a high probability I could lose, and I'm not doing that. So I'm on as an appointee as the treasurer and have really, I think, helped in turn a business model that was not profitable into one that we're moving in the right direction. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'll do anything I can to help you, but I'm also going to say this, helping you would be joining NSA first and getting involved. Come and meet the people. There are people there you will meet at either Thrive or Influence that will significantly help you. It's so amazing to me, NSA, it really is what we call the spirit of cabinet. It's just a bunch of people are willing to give. And I have this belief, whatever I give to you, I'm not losing anything. Okay. I'm not losing anything by giving you and helping you become even more successful. So I know we got 6 minutes left, but I wanted to ask if there's any questions regarding NSA National that I could answer. I wish I had done it sooner, and as many people as I can convince today to get involved. It's a leap. I understand it's a leap. The return on investment will more than pay for itself.
Peter,
also
real
said
quick,
this-
before
Yeah.
we get into any last questions, can everyone take themselves off of mute, please? We need to get a picture. There's just so much, just so many smiles, so much value. Everyone put your game face on. I'm gonna get a screenshot. I got to get my hair right. But Peter, our resident photographer, if everyone can say cheese, 1, 2, 3.
Cheese, cheddar, Monterey.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thanks, y'all. Any questions for Peter? We've got Peter. Oh, Jane, you're up.
Hey, Peter, since you're on the board, there's just a lot of noise about the membership fee increasing, and I'm in favor of it. But I know a lot of people are not too thrilled. So being that you're in the trenches, how do
Yeah.
you defend the higher cost to be a member?
So, Jane, I'm going to be what I want to call a little bit of blunt here, but I think it'll help make a point. In 2017, Barry Banther was going to be the incoming chair. He asked me to be on the finance committee, and he said, I think we got a problem, but I want you to get involved, and looked at it. And so what I did was I got the profit and loss statements for the previous 10 years, and I also got the investment account statements for the previous 10 years. And I'm here to tell you that for 12 years, and it actually now is 14 years, NSA was losing $56,000 a month for 14 years. And you go, how could that happen? I asked the question. It was real easy because all they were doing was taking the loss out of the investment account. So we had about a $4 million investment account, and we had really good years in the stock market during that time. So it would go up, we would take money out. And so in a sense, we were subsidizing member dues by about 1/2. Okay, that's the reality of it. And so you say, well, could we cut costs? We actually tried that model under our previous CEO. We outsourced everything. I don't know where it went in the world, but it went bad. And so we learned that the service levels went significantly down in an outsourced model, trying to cut costs. We did cut costs, but not enough to make up that $56,000 deficit. And so about 1 year ago, in meeting with Jamie, we said this: the board is not going to approve anymore taking money out of the investment account. You ask why? We went down to $2 million in the investment account because the stock market took a poop in 2022. And so we made a decision, we're going to bounce the budget. So it got really scary for a while. And you say, I knew in 2017 we needed to raise the dues. The two administrations did not have the guts to do that. So we continued to lose $56,000 a month. Then in 2020, we had planned to raise the dues, and the pandemic hit. We can't raise the dues in a pandemic. So we got to eat this thing for another year or 2 years or 3 years. And so the whole time we were losing money. And then we made the decision to bounce the budget. And in 2023, we made a decision to raise the dues. We were the first board who raised the dues in 15 years.
I
Okay.
appreciate that. I know there's been a lot of chatter, and Meredith has really taken a hit on it, and I appreciate y'all standing, because we weren't going to have an NSA if you had not done that. There's no question. And Nito's been concerned about it for years. So thank you. That was a bold move and a necessary move. And I
Yeah.
thank you for that.
To add one more thing, in April of last year, we met in Minneapolis, and the question really was, do we sunset NSA? And you ask why? We actually only had $1 million left, because if we sunsetted NSA, $1 million of accruals had to go back to the members. And so we had a very tight window that if the market continued to go down and we lose that $1 million, we're out of business, because the other million's not ours. It's accrued membership dues from our members. And so we knew, my favorite line is, every board before us said, I can't raise the dues, they'll hate us.
Right,
Okay,
right.
every one of them, they'll hate us. And so we knew that some members are going to say, I don't think I get $500 value or $950 value. I don't think I get it. So they're going to leave. And we actually modeled that in preparation for that. But I also want to tell you this. I think it was last week. We had 11 new members last week off of a session that Phil Jones did. So in the new
Amazing.
model, that's like 22 new members disjoined at the new rate. And not one of the new members said, I don't think the value's there. They're pretty excited about the digital vault going in there and getting the resources they need. So I know it was a difficult thing to do. I know it wasn't an easy thing to do. I mean, one of the comments somebody posted on Facebook that hit me hard was they said that any first-year business student would know that doubling the dues is doomed for failure. And I felt like going, any high school student that recognizes you lose $56,000 a month and you do it for 14 years would recognize that's a model doomed for failure.
Yeah.
So we know that it has hurt some people, and we also want to do whatever we can to support people that they're going to get that additional value. I also want to say this, the people who said they get no value, a lot of them have never looked into the digital vault and just saying, what can I do to take my craft to an even higher level?
Well, there's
So-
some things you just can't afford not to do, and that's one of them. And I just think, we had a long discussion on another call with Mary last week. And so again, I thank you for that, because I don't think people know how close we were to folding. I really don't. And it was razor close. And thank you so much.
Great. I
Yeah,
just
and-
want to share one thing with you. I just recently saw the investment account financials for January. Our investment account is up $330,000 just in the last 60 days. And so we're moving that back into the next, into the right direction. And our cash flow compared to last year, month to month, is up about $60,000 over 90 days. And so even though some members have said, I'm not going to renew, we're moving this in the right direction, and I'm hoping for the benefit of all.
Peter, thank you. On behalf of NSA Carolinas, Miranda from NSA National, we thank you for sharing the benefits around NSA. We appreciate you giving us your top 10 on how to build a successful business as a speaker, coach, author, trainer, consultant, selling to corporations. We want to end on time, but if you're around, Peter, we can do 5 minutes of overtime if anyone has any questions. If not, you're free to go. But if anyone has any questions, Peter, do you have 5 minutes for overtime?
I have 5 minutes. I'll help in any way I can.
Okay. Thank y'all for joining. 5 minutes of overtime.
Go for it, Bill.